Hi everyone. Now I will tackle a funny subject today. It's why there's no agreement on what is best high-end equipment, what is best high-end gear. You find like most of the channels, most of the clickbait programs focus on best, like best of the year, best product, da 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 da. But it changes like every time. There's no agreement. You watch like 100 videos, there's zero agreement whatsoever, and even like philosophies of people like diametrically opposing on what you think as best or not, and that's because sound reproduction is about compromises. We cannot have something that is best because all the equipment that is made to reproduce sound is working with severe compromises. And there are equipment that could be said best at certain aspects. However, the way you specialize a piece of equipment is also the way you compromise it. So if you make a special aspect of your amplifier, speaker, or whatever pop out, stand out, that wow, this can do really good bass, then it's also coming with a compromise. So let's look into this issue. And just saying with other words. So actually, so this means that if we want to be fair and honest, then when gear are ranked by, for example, by Stereophile or Absolute Sound or any magazines or reviewers, you also have to be clear on what category your best is. Is it like the best for show sound, or the most natural sounding speakers, for example, or the best high efficiency speakers? So you can name like any sort of things where you want to specify in what area does that thing excel. However, this is not really happening because advertisers do not pay tons of money to say that this 500,000 speaker is best at dynamics, but its tonal balance really sucks. That's no justification for $500,000 speaker, right? But that would be the truth. However, the companies would not shell out big money for advertisements, and we would have no audiophile magazines, and that would be the end of it. And also, let's go next. Why do we need such titles as best or the most expensive? Because it's all about the show. I'm showing here an analogy of in life, in real life, in real non-audiophile life, and basically every form of art and science that you look at, that you live in, and everything in life that catches your attention or is happening to you, everything progresses from show to substance. For example, if you want to learn martial arts, you first thing you notice is show. Everyone is crazy about MMA champion. Excuse me. MMA championships. And that's because it's all about the show. The champions are, glorified. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. And every young kid, every young boy wants to be that MMA champion when he grows up, or when he gets like 5 years older, preferably. And that's quite right. There's you have all the attention. Everyone is cheering for you. If you are in the ring, you have like thousands around cheering and urging you on, and that's what gets the attention. But on the long term, the real impact of a martial arts knowledge is that the safety, that you are safe no matter where you go. If you are alone in a dark alley, you have to go somewhere, your car broke down in a strange neighborhood, you don't have to fear for your life, or you do not need to have unrealistic expectations, I would say. So in that way, when you are submerged into a field, let's say here into martial arts, then you are in control of that aspect of your life. And that happens to everything that we look at, to martial arts, to electricity. Look at electricity. When Edison found it out, it was show at first. It's like to make the kids' hairs stand on end, and everyone, wow, that's awesome. And it took us 100 years, and after 100 years, that electricity is powering our lights, powering our stereo, and we don't even think about electricity anymore. And that's the same thing with martial arts. If you're a martial artist, like I have been for almost 3 decades, I didn't even think about martial arts as something as a show. It's just a natural way of my life. And that's the same thing for audio as well. First we got hooked on by those showy gear, like, wow, there's like a $3 million system, and it's like, it has like 2-ton speakers, and even the power cords cost like $200,000, that kind of thing. That seems like totally unrealistic to most people. And yes, it's totally unrealistic, and often it doesn't even bear any resemblance or any correlation with good sound. It's just show, and their purpose is to get our attention. And once that $1 million gear gets your attention, that's when you move from show to reality, to gear that's for you. Because that show gear, that's like a $3 million gear, it's maybe like a beautiful kimono. And yes, kimonos are probably the most expensive clothing that you can buy, like a 500-year-old vintage kimono that can cost you like 100 times more than your Giorgio Armani outfit. But I would not be able to wear that kimono, you know, even though that's the most expensive clothes. It's just ridiculous, and it doesn't fit me, and it's not my style, you know. The same thing with stereo. You are not going towards that $2 million gear at the end of your journey. You are going towards what you want, and that's why I'm here for, to help you figure out what you want. So basically, we are audiophile pilgrims, and our progress is from show to substance, because those gears that provide you a big show, they do not provide you substance. So they are good to play music for 5 minutes, to put on a demo track, and it blows your mind, and that you will put on your favorite Michael Jackson album, and then you will never ever turn on your system again, because it just sounds so bad. You will find that you are listening to it on your son's boombox more than you turn on your $1 million gear, because the $1 million gear doesn't play anything that you like. So let's go back to specialization, which is our subject today. So these are the extremes that your gear can specialize at, and these are the opposites. So memorize this table, because if you are looking for some aspect, then it requires a certain type of equipment. And for example, if you want highest resolution and best tone, then you have a really tough job ahead of you, because the two are opposite. So the way so for best tone, you really need a system that plays the most naturally, and it's the most balanced. And to get highest resolution, these systems that are super high res, they are not like that, because they read more data out of your music source. Yes, they read out a lot of data, but a system that's best of tone, it reads out the same amount of data as well. But for good tone, that system translates it in a natural way, and the high-res system adds its distortion to make it appear to cheat your brain in a way that you think that you are hearing new things which is not on the recording. And you are not hearing new things, because when you listen to it in a tone-oriented system, yes, you can hear the same things, but for example, that symbol was not the center of the attention. It was maybe the female vocalist who was the center of the attention. And with the high-res system, it becomes the symbol. And then your sound experience turns from what the artist wanted to convey you, which is a song, to listening to symbols. Ding, 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 there's something, here's a lollipop for you, there's a lollipop, and you are like a kid. Wow, 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 in the candy store. This is awesome, this is this one. What was the song about? What did you learn from it? Was there a song? I didn't even notice. I just heard symbols. Dude, these are almost as good as real life. Then get symbols, like get a drum set. Dude, why are you wasting $1 million on stereo if you are not even listening to the music? You just want to hear the symbol? Get symbols. Alright, moving down. Show and substance. That's pretty much the same as tone and resolution. If you want good show, then get a high resolution system. If you want substance, get something that plays good tone. And the two do not mix and match. There are systems that play substance extremely well, but if you do an A/B test against a show sound system, for the average listener, the show sound will win 100 times out of 100. But if you play that to them every night, then after 100 days, every single person will go for the substance system, and they will say, no, I don't want the show. But show always gets your attention if you have no basis of comparison. And there's something about the show is that these systems that excel at show, they distort the sound, and manufacturers know what frequency ranges to manipulate, how to manipulate phase and amplitude to get most showy sound. And that's when your ears will register it as something new, and it will be really catchy. But when you live with that sound for several months, then your brain figures out what were those transformations. It will figure it out subconsciously. And if you are an educated audiophile, you will figure it out consciously as well. And after your brain subconsciously figures it out, that's when you feel the urge to upgrade and you are not happy with your system anymore. So you bought your best system that was reviewed number 1, you are happy with it for 2 months, and then you have that uncontrollable urge that you want to upgrade. And it's because of that, because your brain figured it out what are the distortions. And the reviews do not call it distortion, they call it, wow, high resolution. But they don't tell you that it is also a form of distortion. But I'm telling you, it's a form of distortion. And if you don't believe it, just live with it for half a year, and then you will realize, your brain will tell you, dude, get something else. So going to what do you want to hear? Do you want to hear frequency extremes? You really want to hear super highs and super deep bass, or are you focused on the mid-range? If you are focused on the mid-range, then you have an easier and harder job as well. If you're focused on frequency extremes, most of the reviews recommend gear that do that. It's trickier to find recommendations for gear that play mid-range well, because it's not the show sound. And also, if you want to listen to short bursts, then you want to have good frequency extremes, show sound, high-res sound, and if you want to listen to for hours, then it's really built on the mid-range. And it's the same thing if you have like if you just want to listen to jazz quartets, and nothing else, or maybe you are just even limiting yourself more, you want to listen to saxophone music and nothing else, you have an easier job, much easier, compared to you want to listen to all kinds of music like jazz, chamber music, Mahler, whatnot, techno, rave, just all of them together. If that's the case, you will need a system that has a balanced sound and can deliver substance. And if you look at that, all of these which are on the right side, this is the same type of gear. All of it which is on the left side, that's the same type of gear. And these are opposite ends. And best in this category is not the best in this category. They are really, really far from each other. And if we want to look at them, then let's get like high resolution versus best tone. If you're looking for reviews and you want to find gear that's like that, then high resolution, when the reviewers describe gear that can do high res, then use objective terms. So they say that the bass is great, or the cymbals or the hi-hats are really outstanding, and the dynamics is at least 10 dB better than my other speakers. So if they use such technical terms, then they are talking about a high resolution system. And also these systems are the most advertised systems, and they are called state-of-the-art in the ads. They are called latest technology, and they are called highest resolution. So if you can check out these criteria, take notes when you listen to online reviews. If these check out, then you found high resolution, high-res playing systems. But if you want great tone, let's say you are a violinist and you are interested in violin music or piano music, then if you go with such recommendations, you will not be happy. You will be seeking for a long while. Then look for reviews where the reviewers use subjective terms. So when they say that, they are not talking about like it went down to 15 hertz, and even though the specifications say that it's 6 dB down at 20, I really felt that it's shaking the floor even probably at 15 hertz. So if they use such stuff, it's objective. But if they do not say things like that, or just minimal, but most of the review is about, oh, I listened to Schubert's octet, and they just talk about Schubert's octet. They talk about the music. Then that system can do tone. If you look at types of gear, so you are not just looking at reviews, but I give you some extra tips that will help you to find what kind of gear to look for in those reviews. So if you have a digital source like streaming, that will put you in the high-res category. CD might, if you have a really good deck, but most usually it's the streaming. Solid state amplifiers have the tendency to go towards the high resolution camp. I call them latex speakers because if the speakers look really unnatural, like really high tech or really industry-like, they look nothing like a music instrument. So it's like maybe like concrete speakers, or it's like made of solid aluminum, or it's like a 2-ton speaker, or made of ceramic cone drivers, or something really weird. So they say like, wow, this is some space-age technology. Yeah, if it's space-age technology, it's space-age sound. Speakers sound the way they look. So if you want high-res spectacular sound, look for spectacular looking speakers as well. And these speakers will have manipulated phase response too. So probably it will be like lots of different speaker drivers. So it's not a full range like single driver speaker, not quads, nothing like that. And something that does frequency extremes, wow, that will give you high resolution. If you want good tone, then go for an analog source, like a turntable, or reel-to-reel, or cassette decks. Go look into tube amplifiers, preferably single-ended, or if you can go for push-pull tube amps. Then go for low feedback or no feedback amplifiers. If you have high feedback, then tube amps sound like solid-state amps. So I will talk about that in a later on, because that deserves a talk on its own. What's the difference between tube amps and solid-state amps? Wow, it's a complex issue. But let's get back here to the issue at hand. So if the speakers look like natural speakers, they're made of wood, and the cones are made of paper, then it will have a good tone. Why? Because most of our instruments, music instruments that we use that are natural instruments, they have wooden bodies. And your speakers are music instruments. They are not alien technology. They are technology of planet Earth. And the technology that we made to create music, or violins, guitars, etc., it has to be compatible with the speakers that play it back to you. So if the speaker is similar to your guitar in construction and qualities, then it will play guitar well. If it looks like an alien spaceship, then your guitar will not sound like a Baroque guitar in it. It will sound like an alien space age Klingon guitar, maybe, something like that. So if you have an attention to phase with the speakers, that will be important for tone, and that's where single driver speakers come play a big role. That's why people listen to quads, because they have no phase issues. Everything is in the same phase, they are phase correct, and that's why electrostatics and especially or other speakers that work in that principle, they are very good at reproducing excellent tone, because there's no phase issues. And people who have like huge big speakers with a gazillion drivers, they say, oh, I can play dynamics, I cannot live without dynamics. Sure, but there are people who cannot live without tone. So it's up to you. Do you want to have good tone, like listen to violin for its tone, or do you listen to a violin for its dynamic range? Pick your call. And eventually, if you want both, then for example, in the case of the violin, then you need high efficiency speakers, because they can do both tone and dynamics as well. Now, show and substance. If you want to have showy systems, then look for streaming or surround sound material that can give you a really nice show, and amplifiers that are at least 1000 watts or more, because you need kilowatt range power or more to get that really big dynamic impact and loud volume without compression and breakup. And you need like really artsy speakers, you know, like a ton weight speaker, or like a gazillion driver, like a 20-inch woofer, that sort of thing, because these can move enough air. And usually the show systems are comprised of mixed systems, which means like every component is of a different brand, and you just put like best in category, and the whole thing will be really showy. And if you want to play substance, then you will most likely find your way with a coherent system. So just use one brand and everything is the same. And the more you can keep the same brand in your system, the more substance you can potentially get from it. And that's why, for example, if you go for Jadi, it can give you a system which has tremendous substance. So for example, I tell you an experience from my life about Jadi orchestra. So that's that actually I heard that 20 years ago, and that's the entry-level system of Jadi, or was at that time. And it's that was an analytical sounding system. So I heard the Jadi speakers, the orchestra speakers with the orchestra amplifier and the orchestra CD player, and it had Van den Hoel cabling. and all one day who so the power cord, interconnect, speaker wire, everything one day who, so it's the same language, same family, same signature, and that's compatible with the Jadi signature. And that system had a cold analytical sound, and despite that cold and analytical nature, it connected me to the music. And that's the only instance I ever heard in my life, an analytical system connecting to me. Because every analytical system, it just stays outside. So you feel that you are separate from the music. You are like an observer, like a scientist, measuring music. That's what a lot of audiophiles do when they start their journey. They sit back in their chair and they say, there's a 0.5 dB channel imbalance, and at 100 hertz I heard some sort of anomaly there, and then so on and so on. So you are in this mode that you are analyzing the sound, and you did not listen to the music. And when you ramp up experience, then you move beyond this stage and you can connect to music. But if you use an analytical system, it does not let you anywhere near the music. So you will spend your lifetime without listening to music. You will spend it listening to sound. And with Jadi, it connected me to music despite being analytical. And that was because it was a coherent system. And the one day so it was like so all the major components were one house, and all the cabling was one house, but the cabling and the equipment houses, they have compatible sonic signatures, and they were put together. So that's what happens. That's when magic happens, when you have coherency. So things were not designed, so you are not making, so when you have a mix system, like you have a CJ amp, you have a BAT preamp, you have MIT interconnects, you have a Cardus speaker wire and PS audio power cords, so stuff like that, like a hodgepodge mixture, then you are getting Frankenstein sound. You are putting Frankenstein together. If you want like a human being or a musician, let's think of your system as a musician. If you want to put your musician together or your orchestra together, you have to make it coherent. And then that will deliver you substance. And just speaking of Jadi, when this was their cheapest, like bottom line entry level system, if you look at their upper line, like expensive preamp, when you put it into a non-Jadi system, it will sound disappointingly bad, like really bad, like you won't even want to go near it. So that's kind of like a message that you want coherency, and that's why Jadi and Audio Note are so excellent, because they have a coherent sound. But if you take them out of context, you start putting Jadi and Audio Note gear and mixing it up into a hodgepodge systems, then you are going to be really disappointed, because that's not the way it works. So let's go to what happens if you want frequency extremes versus mid-range. So if you want frequency extremes, then look for speakers that have exotic cone drivers, like diamond tweeters, or like the Kevlar drivers of BMW, or ceramic drivers, or stuff like that, which are like really stiff material, and they can give you like really high frequency extremes. And also look for speakers that have a large number of drivers, which is like multi-way speaker, like 3, 4, 5, 6 way, and drive them with complex big amplifiers. And in that case, you can cover the frequency extremes much better. However, the compromise with that is that it's extremely hard to mate a large number of drivers. The more drivers have, the exponentially harder it gets to get a coherent sound. So if you have like 2 drivers, you have a very hard job, and it will take a year to master that crossover, to have good mid-range. If you have 3 drivers, it will take you 5 years to master good sound, to have decent mid-range. And if you have like 7 drivers, it will take you probably a century to figure out how to get good mid-range out of it. And when last time I checked, one of the like really heavily multi-weight speakers, they haven't been on the market for 100 years. And and those have been on the market, well, you cannot really get Western Electric stuff, and they are not massively multi-channel anyway. So let's look at the mid-range part. If you want good mid-range, then go for paper cones, because paper, that's the material that's closest to wood. And wood, that's what all of those instruments that have mid-range sound, that's their body that amplifies the sound, that carries the sound. And paper gives the most natural sound. It doesn't have an extreme sound, so it won't give you extreme definition, but at the same time it will not be harsh either. So you want the paper mid-range if you want good mid-range. Also, you want to look into single driver speakers that use only one driver to get the entire range, and then that will give you a perfect mid-range experience, or as few drivers as possible if you absolutely must. Like, for example, a good choice is to use like a single driver speaker, like a Fostex 8-inch driver. And if you want to add some more top extension, then just add the super tweeter to it. And that's easy to do. So your single driver is carrying from 16 kilohertz down to 40 hertz, and then you can add a little bit on top and a little bit on the bottom. But almost everything that your ear uses to process music is carried by a single driver. And you want to have direct amplifiers. And under that, I mean amplifiers using as little feedback as possible and as simple circuit topology as possible. You want to go to class A design, either tube or solid state, and want to have as short signal path as possible. Let's see, we are running out of time, so I will not mention too much about that, but only that if you want to listen to very loud volume for a short time, this is what you're gonna go for. If you want to listen to extended time, then go for these things. Whatever, if you want to listen to just a certain thing, like let's say just violin, or you just want to listen to drums, or then you are in at I cannot give a generic advice for that. Each of your listening preferences requires a drastically different setup, and it depends on the music you want, also the recording method, whether you want to listen to old LPs or new LPs, or you want to listen to something that's been recorded in the past 5 years, whether if it's recorded on an average label, let's say it's something like a Columbia label or Warner or something, or Sony, or is it like an audiophile label, like you are listening to Chesky and you want to have Chesky records sound good, then you have to get your equipment matched to that sound. And also your room size will play a huge impact on the selection. And if you want to listen to all kinds of genres, then you want to go more towards an analog or Red Book CD type of scenario for your sources. You want high efficiency speakers, paper cone drivers preferably, as coherent system as you can get, and something that sounds good at lower volume levels. So that's something that people often miss, that they just listen to it at really high volume level, and oh, that's great, that's the sound I want. You take it at home and you play it at half the volume, and then, geez, that doesn't sound like the way I want. It has to sound good at the volume you are playing it. So that's it for today. If you like it, please cast your vote if you like this these videos that I provide, and if you like and subscribe, that's your feedback that you want to hear more. If you don't subscribe, that's your feedback that this channel is not of interest, and then I will stop making videos. But if I get feedback from you, either in the form of likes, subscribes, or comments, then I'm really happy, and I'm glad if I could help you on your journey, on your audiophile journey. Thank you.